Because she hasn't got this. Well, we'll try and work this between us somehow.
Sit very close together.
Yeah. I can pass it to her. No. Yeah.
Is this right?
This secret discussion is about the microphone. Nothing else. Dr. Rose is getting on fine, building up his strength, and all being well, we'll have this operation for a hernia in about a fortnight's time. We are closely in touch with him. The material which is being used is his material, which he's written, and he's greatly benefited by having this period of quiet and stillness. And you will see in the material that he is recommending this stillness, the search for stillness, to us all. And he sent very good wishes to us for the beginning of this term. I'm going to read these.
Well, it's quite a mixed bag of announcements. First, some dates. The next large Monday meeting will be on May the 22nd. And there's a meditation meeting on Tuesday, the 9th of May. And a Makabali for visitors on Friday, the 5th of May. Then about the library, as only 3 books were missing last year, it's been decided to keep the library open on meditation meeting nights and also on visitors' Makabali nights for the use of members and associates. Then outlying groups find it valuable to have visitors from other groups. So if anyone here is going to be in another part of the country on a visit, would they ask the office if there's a meeting in the vicinity which they could go to? The Thursday afternoon group, which meets here at 3:30, is short of numbers. So if there's anyone who could come to it instead of an evening meeting, would they please let us know? And about music, we've now got good facilities for good music reproduction from records or cassettes. So suggestions for music that would be suitable for use at meetings would be welcome. Then we're in need of more people living in London who have a spare room to offer accommodation to visitors. There are very few people on our list at the moment, and there's therefore a demand from overseas visitors.
We do quite often get a rush of visitors, either from Mexico or New York or even Australia during the summer, and it's awfully nice to be able to offer them hospitality.
And finally, meetings will be starting this week. And if anyone is in doubt which group they're in, would they have a look at the magnetic board by the door?
Mrs. Halsley let us know over the weekend that Mr. Jack Healy, who she's looked after and been very close to for many years now, died over the weekend. Oh, and one other announcement, and that is about the material. Meeting takers have already had a paper headed Readings for the Summer. Now that paper is to be considered as Reading 1, and Reading 2 has been issued this afternoon. Now, has anybody had any great ideas or inspirations during the holiday period that they'd like to share with us? Or any burning questions that the room might be able to answer? Well, they may come. Dr. Rose has given us for discussion at this afternoon's meeting an introduction to the papers which he has prepared for the first 3 meetings of this term, and I think he has others ready on the same lines if we respond to the ideas he puts forward, and if he feels there is a real demand for more. Otherwise, he may just let us fall back on our own resources. So if we, that would be rather a disaster in some cases, but if we want to get this marvelous food that is made available for us, we have, first of all, to show that we appreciate it, and then to ask for more. And the line he will be taking is really summarized in a sentence which he wrote to me, saying all the troubles we meet with, both in the outside world and in our own special work, come from the wrong relations to be seen everywhere between the 2 hemispheres, which, he says, we can conveniently think of as personality and essence. That's what is called the dominant hemisphere, he suggests we should call personality, and the quiet, non-dominant, passive hemisphere we should regard as essence. And then he goes on, this wrong relationship prevents people from communicating in the outer world and from taking a rational view of today's problems, owing to the intrusion of personal attitudes and absence of mental discipline, and also prevents those of us who meditate from receiving the benefits inherent in our own nature and brought out by adequate meditation and reception of the true knowledge. There's a very splendid illustration of that very thing, which Mrs. Moore, Zipper Moore, sent to me for us all. She said that she'd been moving lately towards realizing the illusion one lives in, especially in one's opinions and attitudes. One is inclined to see everything from a personal point of view. For example, one imagines that other people can behave differently, and one continually dreams of some sort of utopian status quo. It takes a long time, she says, to understand that one can change nothing but oneself, and that one cannot help anyone or any situation when there is the slightest personal slant in one's effort. This has led me to a feeling of acceptance, not a fatalistic feeling that one can do nothing, but a realization of the futility of allowing oneself to be censorious about the way things are going, or of other people's behavior. Yeah. She adds rather sadly, my trouble is that however much I'm aware of a slow realization like this, I find it difficult to put anything into practice. But of course, I think that we would all agree that we wouldn't get any realization like this unless we were putting something into practice. But what's anybody got to say about this?
There was a question on holiday in which it seemed that much of one's life was spent like Hamlet, either taking up arms against a sea of troubles or suffering them within. And really, what was the real answer to the question? Either suffering the inner troubles or taking up arms against them. And then there was a moment when there would seem to be inwardly a detachment and a freedom, so that there was an inner tranquility which could not be affected by trouble. It's not that one was.
Hey, I think my wife will never You get the sense.
So far, I think Dr. Cox said that during the holidays, he felt in a situation rather like Hamlet, where he was either taking up battle against troubles or suffering them inwardly, and there seemed no way out. But at one moment, there did appear to be a moment of tranquility when one was free of this, and this could not be affected by the troubles.
That's right, yes.
Well done. Round of applause.
How did Dr. Cox achieve that? And was it
I think I can lean towards you. Don't keep taking on.
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
Could you speak this way? Because when you speak that way, I can't. Yeah.
I just wondered how we achieved that state of tranquility in that particular situation.
How did Dr. Cox achieve that particular feeling of tranquility in that situation? How did he do it? How did it come?
Can you hear at the back when we do it this way with a sort of joint microphone?
There was a very clear appreciation of the situation.
There was a very clear appreciation of the situation, Dr. Cox says.
Yes, but did it come because of the stillness? It must have done, because...
Well, in the clear appreciation, there is that stillness.
In the clear appreciation is the stillness.
Which comes first?
I think in the truthfulness of what is happening, there is a stillness.
In the truthfulness, you mean in seeing, being truthful about what is happening, comes the stillness.
And in that stillness, in the truthfulness, there was the sense of this inner freedom, this tranquility, this part that was not affected by what was exterior. And there was a very clear appreciation that much of what disturbs us is exterior, and that we have a calm interior, which is quite clear.
In this tranquility, there was a clear understanding that what disturbs us is very often exterior, and that we do have a calm, tranquil interior. Well, there is a place which is calm and tranquil within us.
Yes, I think we'd all agree there is a place, but we're very seldom there. And there's as much hullabaloo going on inside as there is outside very often, don't you find?
Well, I would say that hullabaloo is all outside.
You're very lucky.
Dr. Cox says that his hullabaloo is all outside.
You're very lucky. Well, any more people wanting to partake of this?
I'm just thinking about the comment about this moment of tranquility, that it's very difficult to know whether it's as a result of anything one's tried to do or not. And that it happens at an unexpected moment. It doesn't ever appear to be the result of any effort on one's own part.
These moments of tranquility do not necessarily appear to be the result of anything one does. They appear to come unexpectedly and not to be related to any effort one has made.
I'm sure that's our general experience, isn't it? But it would be nice to be able to bring them more frequently, wouldn't it? And this is what we're all about, trying to do just that, so that we can, I'm coming on to it now, really, but live, as Mr. Uspensky said, in a state, well, not perhaps live, but get more frequently into a state of consciousness without verbal thought. That's an expression used by Mr. Uspensky in his chapter on dreams in the New Model of the Universe.
Could I just ask one more question? Do you think that there may be a delayed result of some effort that one has made at a certain interval beforehand, which produces what we need to take so one doesn't connect the one with the other. It's obviously important between.
Do you think that these moments of tranquility there is a delay from the effort one has made, and they do come as a result of something that's gone before, and we don't see the connection because we don't see the interval between what we put into practice and the moment of tranquility that comes?
I'm sure everybody would agree totally with that. Anybody like to add anything to that?
Well, yes, I'm reminded of what His Holiness said about this.
But that little supper which you have, that is important. And not all the dross which you see about you.
Mr. Pickering is reminded of what H.H. said about that little sapper that you have is what is important, and not the great amount of dross that's all around you.
Mm.
I think that it puts the direction, because much of the time we seem to be incited by various events or incidents or things or thoughts, and we go for that incitement rather than for that precious bit of tranquility.
Mm.
Dr. Cox says he thinks this is the direction because so often we are incited by thoughts or feelings or sensations or events, and we don't go, we get incited by these things, and we don't go for this little bit of tranquility that we do have.
Mm. But it is this taste of these few moments, which of course come as a result of efforts made beforehand, that give us the incentive to make more efforts and to do what we've been told so often what is necessary. Do you think that's right, Dave?
Yes, I do. As far as I can observe, the results are often very disparate to the efforts. I mean, I was never quite sure I find, of the results and what effort has produced those results. And I think I make a mistake in, speaking for myself personally, in aiming at a particular result, lessening of attention or something, nothing happens, and I get rather depressed and etc. Whereas the results taking will happen differently, which and I don't know about it.
Mm.
Isn't there perhaps a danger in looking for cause and effect in this, and rather what we have been told to do is how to make it possible for more moments of awareness or tranquility to occur?
Isn't there a danger in looking for cause and effect in this? And shouldn't we do what's been suggested of putting into practice things that will make it possible for more moments of awareness to occur?
Absolutely. And what the doctor is saying in this material, really, is that we must get free of what he calls the all-pervasive dominance of verbal thought through the active hemisphere by giving it all up and reaching the state of inner peace. So it's to give up all that goes on in the dominant hemisphere. What a very good expression, I think, verbal thought. Verbal thought.
Sorry,
No, it's very helpful.
Do we only need verbal thought when we wish to speak or write?
Do we only need verbal thought when we wish to speak or write something?
Indeed we do, really. Mm. But I remember Dr. O said it's very good to just check in ordinary routine actions, say walking, to suddenly stop and catch all the burden that you're carrying with you, the mental burden that you're carrying with you, when all that should be happening is your mind is just going along with you. And it's all that kind of thought or activity of the dominant hemisphere which stops us being peaceful Now, other ideas? You got any ideas? Ron?
In
Yeah.
that connection, when you said that, I was reminded that at the same time, he said that when you aren't doing anything particular, one should observe whether one's mind is full of happy thoughts or not, and whether one is in fact sitting with a burden of unnecessarily heavy thoughts. And this I found very interesting.
Other ideas?
I from Lord Allan that accept this tranquility as normal and learn to live with it. It appears that it's unusual way that we should just accept it as normal and learn to live with it.
Instead of regarding these moments of tranquility as unusual, we should try and accept them as normal and try to live with it.
Marvelous, if they really are normal. If one really lives one's life in total tranquility, everybody would see a mile around.
I've always had a difficulty in giving things up. So I tried a new tack during the holidays and trying to add on an extra dimension and try and think, well, what's missing if I'm torn between two things? And that way try and approach it from a different angle to add on the tranquility, and that's often let other things go away.
I've always found it difficult to give up things. So during the holidays, I tried a new technique, which was to add something on, add the missing tranquility. And very often this enabled other things to drop away.
Mm-hmm. Well, it worked fine, try it again, but on the whole, I think it's better to throw it overboard.
I try to think what's missing.
I've tried to think what's missing.
Stillness is missing.
Although it seems that one of the signs of greater awareness is the familiarity of everything around one and one's own person.
It seems that one of the signs of greater awareness is a sense of familiarity with things around one and a greater awareness. I'm trying to talk around your arm.
Sorry.
Yes.
Yes.
In relation to this, I wondered if playing one's part in the play of life was not affected by one's forgetting all the time and inventing.
And in connection with this, I wondered if the playing one's part more perfectly, or why one is not able to, is because one forgets all the time and then starts inventing.
Mm. Well, I think what Dr. Rose is trying to encourage us to look for at the moment is stillness rather than awareness. The awareness may follow the stillness, but I think he's talking about the stillness. And then if you are still, I think that would, the last part of your question was what
That you we don't play our roles perfectly because we forget and then start inventing things.
But because we are not still, that's really why we don't play our roles. We're interfering. The dominant hemisphere is interfering.
If we knew that all our difficulties were quite familiar, we just don't know.
Yeah.
If only we realize that all our difficulties are really quite familiar, but we just don't know them.
They would stop.
They wouldn't be difficulties.
They would drop.
Yes.
We really saw them.
Yeah. Yeah.
they would cease to be difficulties
Yeah.
or drop if we really saw them as they are.
Mm.
We could only see them as they are if the balance was right between the two hemispheres.
Absolutely.
Which is what we're aiming to establish, a harmony between the two sides. I understand.
What would anybody say to that? What would you say to that?
I would say it's not, well, for me, imaginary pictures which are floating about, I suppose, are non-verbal, and I have plenty of those, and I'm not still at all. But most of my trouble arises from the verbal chewing over.
Yes, I don't know, Dr. Connell, how would you differentiate between verbal and non-verbal thought? I don't see him. Yeah.
I really think the best quality of thinking always involves emotion. And it's not just words, it's not a mechanical flow.
Dr. Connell says that the best quality of thinking always involves some emotion, and it's not just a flow of mechanical thought.
We are told that understanding does produce this union.
Yes.
We are told that understanding does produce this union. Mrs. Drew, I think it was, asked, is there such a thing as a non-verbal thought?
Yes, there must be, yes. I think what Dr. Rose is trying to help us to do is to stop the dominant hemisphere clattering away all the time and probably verbalizing thoughts. But there must be a layer of thought behind. And there must be, because we are thinking beings.
I'm sure there is awareness, consciousness, which is non-verbal.
Yes.
I'm sure there is awareness and consciousness which is non-verbal.
But thought involves some process, surely, some intellectual process.
But thought involves some intellectual process, surely.
Yes, that's right.
There's one process which is not particularly not particularly intellectual, which seems to me doesn't involve necessarily involve anything verbal, and that's the creative process.
There's one type of thought which to me does not seem to involve anything particularly verbal, and that is the creative process.
Exactly. I think that's what Dr. Connell was hinting at. But I think we were probably in danger of getting bogged down. So would you like to read? Yes.
There are two big reasons why very few people have ever arrived at valid conclusions about all this.
What we're just talking about.
One, the recently discovered structure and potential of the human brain is so complex that the technical language involved is far too difficult for the non-expert. So what's been discovered through insight and inspiration can only be given to others in artificial approximations, as in the language of the arts, of myths, parables, and similes. Two, special technical procedures are necessary and have to be practiced for some time under guidance, say 3 years at least, before one hemisphere can get on terms and observe the other one without changing or destroying its work. and therefore the most knowledgeable scientist who does not know or practice these methods is just as much in the dark as his ignorant brothers. Today, the speech mechanisms and all our thinking, seeing and hearing and communication in words in the dominant left hemisphere have assumed such paramount importance that some non-practicing observers, like Arthur Koestler, have even claimed that mankind has taken a wrong step in evolution, so it just has to wait for the hydrogen or neutron bomb. But it was exactly to meet this present situation that the meditation had to be introduced to the West during and after World War II. Now, we are in the happy possession of copious and accurate teaching on the relation of the two sides of the brain and of the subtle to the physical and causal levels, from two sources, both depending on the study of the dream world by special means. This is the only way for ordinary people of getting to know the full potential of the quiet, inward-looking hemisphere when freed from the totalitarian dictatorship of the dominant one. To avoid this cumbersome language, let us call the two personality and essence for the present, remembering that the physical brain is a smaller world than the subtle psychological world. In his chapter 7 of the New Model on the study of dreams, B.D. Ouspensky describes how dreams can only be correctly observed through cultivating what he called the half-dream state. We now know that this is a state which we sometimes experience just after meditation, as well as on waking from sleep during the night or in the morning. It is called contemplation in Raja Yoga. The dominant hemisphere has had to be put completely to sleep and then awakened just sufficiently to observe and record the dreams of the subtle level without altering or interpreting them on the ordinary logical basis.
Yeah. We might just stop there a moment before we read a quotation from Mr. Ouspensky. Has anybody got any points on that?
I have felt for a very long time, and I will be kidding myself, of course, that meditation, long term, brings the most painless method of seeing oneself as one's ever experienced.
Miss Newington says she has felt for a long time, and she may be kidding herself, that the meditation is the most painless method of seeing oneself. It brings that.
Mm. It also, of course, brings this stillness.
Yes, I think possibly it depends on how much stillness one gets before one feels that. It fluctuates.
I think it.
Long-term benefit.
Yes, Miss Newington referred earlier on this long-term benefit of seeing oneself, and she said she feels it does depend on how much stillness you get, and that this fluctuates.
Do you mean, Miss Newington, seeing yourself, seeing Miss Newington?
Yes, but much more truly, I mean, not a lot of psychological
Yeah.
nonsense.
So, seeing the real self?
Well, perhaps, I don't know, but if we ever want to do it, more truly.
Seeing myself more truly and without all this psychological nonsense.
It seems to me that this really touches the essence of all we're trying to do. Trying to get rid of all that is false and get to this real person, which is there all the time.
Professor Gart referred, when we were talking just before we came in, he came back to this idea of Dr. Rose's, I have nothing of my own. And it seems that this is really what I think I want from this, or that the dominant verbal thing is always connected with me and mine. And while it's necessary to communicate and play one's role, some balance that leaves out a bit more of the me and mine and has more of this taste of I have nothing of my own, sums up for me what I would like to understand from it.
I don't know whether it helps people or not in this connection, but I myself often say, well, I'm now in my 60s, but I'm really no different than I was when I was in my 20s. And I think lots of other people say that sort of thing. And I did actually ask the Shankaracharya what that was, that I that really is not affected by the ups and downs of our lives, the successes or the failures. It's there all the time, like the depths of the sea. And he said that that was true I. And for me, it's very helpful always, or as often as I can, to, as it were, be in touch with that I that I know is there. And when one is there, one knows that one is not, in essence, different from anybody else. And in a way, this seems to me to be the key to our work. But that's a slight digression. Anybody want to say anything about that?
Well, I think that that must get down to there. I have to be a few years older than that myself. But there have been these moments when one has known oneself, just as a matter of interest, me. Why it should be I remember my 8th birthday, which is nearly 70 years ago. But I can remember that moment now. It should be now. I can see myself exactly as I was. I can tell you exactly where I was, how I was dressed, and saying to myself, I'm 8 today.
I can add a few more years onto your 60s, and as one gets older, these moments appear to come. But I ask myself, for instance, why is it that I can return completely to my 8th birthday? I'm there now. I can see myself, I know what I was wearing, and I can say, today I am 8. And that was 70 years ago.
All I think I could say now is hold on to that. And perhaps one could develop something from holding on to that. But it does bring us into a completely different conversation about time, and I don't think we should perhaps do that. Anything you would say, Dick?
No, I think not. I think it is fascinating feeling one does get of another dimension of time. Occasionally, just tastes of it.
Well, would you like to read? I'd give you this thing.
Stop before you pick up. I'm a little bit stuck now because I'm also very much aware of this continuing eye looking down at the mind and this feeling of being touched myself. And I'm also aware of being aware of other people having this same eye, not the same eye, having their own eye in the same way. Where I'm stuck is that there still seems to be a unique individual eye there instead of an eye which can melt together with everybody else's eye into a common unique eye.
Mrs. Mayer says she's got a slight problem here in that she very much understands what you meant about this continuing eye and feeling of eye right through her life, which she has felt very strongly. But not only that, she's seen that other people have this same continuous eye of their own. But the problem is that this still seems to carry a strong feeling of an individual and is not the eye which can melt and merge into all other eyes.
Yeah. It's a question of stillness. Again, as Dr. Rose says, be in the stillness. And one is aware of one's true self, and one may be aware that other people are also in touch with you through their true self. But the realization, full self-realization, is when you have truly experienced that. You know about it now. Sometimes we feel about it, but we have really to experience it. And then the combination of that experience and the knowledge we've got will give us true self-realization. And then we will come to the feeling that our self, that we call this I, that must have preceded birth and must go on after death, is in fact one with the Supreme Self, and that our life is simply transitory. We are, as it were, detached from one supreme whole to live a transitory life here, and we will return whence we came.
Lord Allan, wouldn't you say that the merging with other people's eyes increases, not doesn't decrease?
Wouldn't you say that the merging with other people's eyes increases one's individuality, not necessarily does away with it?
I don't know that I would agree. But I think we're getting considerably beyond our brief. Let us just simply consider that the noise of the dominant hemisphere, which Dr. Rose is inviting us now to call personality, the noise and the very dominance of it is preventing us from doing all these things that we would like to do. I think we should come back to that. And I think I'll get my wife to read the rest of the bit that Dr. Rose has written.
This is Mr. Uspensky from the New Model, on the chapter, The Study of Dreams. And he wrote, "If I saw in my dream one of my friends, whom perhaps I had not seen for several years, he spoke to me in his own language, in his own voice, with his own intonations and inflections, with his own characteristic gestures, and he said precisely what only he could say. In dreams of such a kind, it happened that I saw more than once 10 or 20 people simultaneously, whom I had known at different periods of my life, and in not one of them was there even the slightest mistake or inexactitude. This was something more than memory. It was artistic creation, because it was clear to me that many details that had previously gone from my memory were reconstructed, so to speak, on the spot." And Dr. Rowles comments, "All this almost instantaneously done, how long would it take a playwright or a novelist to construct such characters and scenes in ordinary space-time?" And he says, "Ordinary people, and by no means all of them, only seem to get experiences like this in very early childhood, before they have learnt to speak, or at the other end of life, in the process of dying. In both cases, the subtle body is free from the dominance of personality." The above quotation and other parts of this chapter in A New Model contain points of similarity to some of the first-hand accounts after resuscitation from clinical death. Dr. Moody writes, and this is a quotation, "The memories, when they're..."
It's a quotation
from Life After Life. "The memories, when they are described in temporal terms, are said to follow one another swiftly in chronological order. Others recall no awareness of temporal order at all. The remembrance was instantaneous. Everything appeared all at once, and they could take it all in with one mental glance." And Dr. Rowles goes on, "So when the dominant hemisphere tries to recall and describe these magical events in its laborious way, it is bound to distort or rearrange them. In this chapter on dreams, P.D. Uspensky also describes their extreme rapidity, as does the Shankaracharya in some of his stories and descriptions of the subtle level, and also the alterations in chronological order which the daytime mind feels it has to make, very like what the scribes who copied the Gospels did to the original text." Do you want these two
I think we
examples?
might leave it there.
Yes.
If anybody wants to follow that up, there are copies of that book, Life After Death, Life After Life, by Dr. Moody, in the library. I think we've also got the second volume. And people might, before going to meetings, like to read Mr. Uspensky's chapter on dreams. The quotation which my wife read is page 284. And the reference to consciousness without verbal thought is on page 295.
The pages may be different according to different...
Yes, that's the second edition. Thank you. Anybody got anything they'd like to say?
Lord Allan, this meeting has helped me very much to understand the
advice one received over the weekend. I asked the doctor how to think about the criticism that was made about the meeting last week. And he said, learn to think comprehensively. And
Dr. Connell says that this meeting has greatly helped him to understand some advice he was given at the weekend. He was speaking to Dr. Rose and asked him how to take or what attitude to have to some criticism of a meeting last week. And Dr. Rose's advice was, learn to think comprehensively.
Thank you. Well, a marvelous example of that wide comprehension was provided by Mrs. Simpson in an extract she sent me from Jean-Pierre de Caussade, with a 17th century Jesuit. And I thought I might end by reading this. Let us pass beyond our languors, our illnesses, our aridities, our inequalities of humour, our weaknesses of mind. Let us fly like the eagle above all these clouds, our gaze ever fixed on the sun and on its rays. We feel all these miseries, and it does not depend on us to be insensible to them. But let us remember that our life is not a life of feeling. Let us live in that higher region of the soul, where the will of God produces his eternal operation, ever equal, ever uniform, ever immutable, there, infinitely removed from all the specific detail of created shadows and atoms. There we remain calm, even when our senses are prey of the tempest. It is that kind of stillness that Dr. Rose is urging us to seek by the methods which we have been taught. Now, I hope we have a very profitable term, and I'm sure you want to send your very best wishes to the doctor, and I will convey that to him.
I'll give you, that's my copy of the paper.
Okay. You
In
take
your-
it. No, I'll take the whole lot.
In the file.
Your copy of reading too?
Yes.
Yes, I'll take the whole lot. No, I didn't. Wait, I tell you what, yes, I'll give it to him. Yeah.